Hello, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, here's our all-hazards weather map valid for Thursday morning, and we see a very colorful map. First of all, we have winter weather advisories here as this frontal boundary pushes through, bringing some snow early in the morning on Thursday. We also have a dense fog advisory just to the south and east of that, but your eyes are probably drawn to all the colors that we see down here in the south central plains, which include wind advisories and high wind warnings, where we're watching the development of a low-pressure center that's going to be racing across the southern part of the United States, and it is going to absolutely soak this region of the country in the next couple of days. There is a severe weather threat that's going to be kind of focused down here in the southeastern part of the United States, but this rain will actually extend up into the eastern part of the Corn Belt with time as well. But we're going to discuss here in a few minutes how we're going to see some snow possibly working its way in on the back side of this. And meanwhile, while all of this is going on the eastern side of the Rockies, the western United States is going to continue to get pummeled with strong onshore flow events, which is going to keep piling up that snow. So let's diagnose this one. We're going to start off here 5 a.m. Thursday morning, where we still see our lighter snow coming in on the frontal boundary here through parts of the Dakotas, getting over into Minnesota. And we're also going to be watching snow develop right in through here, possibly piling up quite a bit where I drew this X. But you will be seeing, as I animate forward, a lot of rain moving up into the Ohio River Valley, including parts of Missouri and Illinois. And then you're going to see multiple rounds of rain moving over here into parts of the southeast. Now, one quick thing to point out, I'm concerned about the severe weather risk, and I'm also really concerned about the flooding risk in parts of the Carolinas, eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, and also parts of Virginia there as that snow is melting. So let's get rid of these drawings. Let's kind of take a look at what we're watching here as this thing moves forward. So clicking play, here we go. This is now getting us through middle of the day on Thursday. Look at the rain spreading up into the eastern Corn Belt and the potential for some heavy and wet snow there in central Texas. But out ahead of it, a lot of Gulf moisture coming up on these showers and thunderstorms. And as the front slides through the southeast, again, we're watching out for some severe weather. But as I take you all the way out here into Saturday morning, what we just see is the slow progression of this low pressure system, which really has a lack of cold air to work with. Hence, all of this is going to be coming to us in the form of rain. So a very soggy end of the week for this section of the country as the slow-moving system progresses on through. Now, in terms of these winds, look at what the high-resolution NAM model is picking up for on the day on Thursday. On the backside of this low-pressure system here in parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, and even parts of New Mexico and Colorado, we'll see sustained 25 to 30-mile-an-hour winds with gusts getting much, much higher than that. And these windy conditions will actually persist throughout the day on Thursday, even into the day on Friday, as this low-pressure system slowly tracks with its upper-level trough there across the southern United States. So this is going to be a very, very windy few days here for the south central plains. Okay, but let's kind of get into this snowfall forecast. We see the models are pretty consistent with the placement of the light snow, maybe a dusting to an inch of snow here in parts of the eastern Dakotas getting into Minnesota. That's what that front is pushing through there. Now, what we see here is that the European model is in pretty good agreement on the placement and amount of snow as the NAM 3 kilometer and also the HER model. Now, there's a little bit of variation here, but we're basically looking at some pretty wet, kind of very quickly accumulating snows, but it'll have a lot of liquid water content, so I'm expecting it to really be a big slush fest as this comes through here. The only model that's kind of off in the amount would be what the GFS is calling for here. Placement's okay, but the amount is a little bit off. So I just want to kind of give a quick diagnosis for Texas, because I do have a lot of people that watch the video from that state. Now, if we watch the whole thing evolve moving forward, let's just do this. We can see that the storm system takes its time. It takes all the way to Saturday, even early Sunday morning before it finally pushes off the East Coast. So if I just step you back, look at this slow mover dumping a lot of rainfall there across the southern third of the United States, getting off to the East Coast. Now, after it passes, this is now valid for Monday morning, things quiet down from Monday into Tuesday across a big section of the country. Certainly the northwest part of the United States just keeps getting socked with strong onshore flow, piling up the snow out west. We'll take a look at that in just a few seconds. But really the next system that starts to move through the country will be kind of two parts. I got a little clipper coming in through here next Wednesday, and possibly our next system starting in the southern plains. And I think the southern plains will be the preferred storm track as we see this overall overall adjustment in the flow of the atmosphere with a very zonal jet in the Pacific. So we got a couple of things to be watching about a week from now. But I'm really not too confident going beyond a week in the forecast for precipitation at this point, given some of the uncertainties I've been seeing in the models. So at least that's what we're picking up over the next week. And when we kind of put it all together, here's our snowfall map from the European model, getting you all the way through next Wednesday evening. And we can really just see that it's the snow that we've got right now coming in on that little front, and then the snow right here coming through the backside of that low pressure system that's forming on Thursday and Friday. That's really all that we have to talk about, except for the strong onshore flow out west piling up the snow there, which they desperately need. But look at the rainfall amounts. We can see very heavy rainfall amounts with this system, even spreading up into parts of Illinois and the eastern Corn Belt here. But certainly the risk of stronger thunderstorms here over the southeast. And again, right in here where I'm shading, I'm expecting major flood threat as that snow is melting. So we've got an active southern storm track right now. Now let's talk about this longer range temperature pattern. I want to animate for you first the 500 millibar height pattern. The trough you see down here in the lower Mississippi River Valley, that's the trough that's giving us this slow moving system that moves on out. But look in the Gulf of Alaska. A very deep trough is forming there, and that is going to dominate our flow in the near term because look, it just sits there and then reloads again. And while that reloads with the trough, ridging builds in the middle part of the country, and this is the warm-up we've now been talking about for about 3 weeks. So the question is, how long does that last? Well, as long as that trough stays out there out west in the Gulf of Alaska, we're going to continue to see these ridges in the middle part of the country. I am watching on the 20th and 21st for a trough to develop here in the central U.S. and then moving on off to the northeast, producing another storm system with it. But we're talking here about not this coming Friday, but the Friday after this one. But because of this trough, all of this warm air that will be in parts of Canada is going to limit this particular feature's ability to be tapping into enough cold air to make another big snowstorm. So this looks like another rainfall event across much of the eastern half of the country, with maybe getting cold enough for some snow in the northeast. But until we dislodge that big trough that was over here in the Gulf of Alaska, we are not going to be able to play with enough cold air to make this happen. So here we are getting into the week. This is the 23rd of December and the 24th and 25th. Now, one of the things we're going to be watching for is a pattern shift once we get into the week of Christmas, such that we start to push in a ridge here into the Gulf of Alaska and we kind of displace this trough over into the Four Corners states. Now, if that happens, we're going to have to watch this area in through here for the development of a winter storm. But the question is, will there be enough cold air to use to make this a significant event? Because if I animate for you the next 15 days of temperatures, well, you can really see the pattern is favoring that warmer air in the central United States, all the way until we get to about Christmas or a few days after that. Now, we have agreement from the East Pacific Oscillation, the West Pacific Oscillation, and the Madden-Julian Oscillation. All three of those global teleconnection patterns suggest that we hang on to this warm pattern here for the central U.S. For at least another 10 days, maybe even longer than that, across the middle part of the country. And until we break down, really, I think until we break down the Madden-Julian Oscillation, which right now is featuring a lot of thunderstorm activity in the Indian Ocean, until that shuts down, I think we're going to be stuck in this phase 3 pattern, which is warmer for this section of the country. Now, I do want to point out some model inconsistencies between the GFS and the European model, both in their ensemble mode. Here are the consistencies first. We see a ridge in both the European model on the left and the US model, the GFS, on the right. They both want to keep this Four Corners trough in place. But the differences come in where the cold air is expected to set up in the GFS versus where we have a ridge in the European model. And that is why the European model, as we get into Christmas and a couple days after, still keeps things relatively warm when looking at all the ensemble members, whereas the GFS wants to bring in a pretty substantial cold air outbreak. And I'm going to be honest, right now it is very difficult to see which one's going to get this right because both are plausible, both are possible. So let me tell you what the bigger factor to be watching will be. What you're seeing over here animated on the left first, that is the position of the polar vortex. It has been elongated for quite some time across eastern North America over into Siberia. And what you watched a moment ago was where we're expecting to see it go in the coming days. So right now, the polar vortex is kind of tucked into here. Watch as I move you through the 17th, 18th, and 19th as we allow it to kind of move into this position. And when that happens, we relax the pattern as it goes across the United States, and that allows for some warmth to build into the middle part of the country. And that warmth will probably hang around for several days here in the middle to end of December. But you will see that with time, as it gets you all the way out to around Christmas, that the European model wants to bring the polar vortex back into this position. And, the U.S. model. And if the U.S. model gets this right, this would mean a very stormy and a return of very cold air for the eastern half of the United States. But uncertainty exists. And we've got to see some things changing in the tropics before I'm fully able to kind of believe in the solution of the GFS here. So let's kind of talk about what I mean by that. I now want to show you the Madden-Julian oscillation. It is currently in phase 3, and according to the European model, is going to slowly migrate into phase 4 and 5. Now it's staying relatively low amplitude, but remember this, for North America, especially for Central North America, phases 3, 4, and 5 are the warm phases for us. It's going to be part of phase 6, 7, 8, 1, and 2 that are the cold phases for North America. So if the MJO keeps all those thunderstorms in the Indian Ocean, we're going to stay in these phases for a little bit longer. Now, what does that mean for South America? Well, we can see over here that in phase 3, 4, and 5, we tend to be drier in central Brazil and wetter on the northern and southern sides of it. And sure enough, the 15-day European model is picking up on a dry pattern here with wetter than average conditions south and north. And this has got people concerned. Is this drier pattern going to be a problem? Well, let's put this into perspective. From September 1st to December 10th, we've seen that overall this region has been somewhere between 125 and 150% of average on precipitation. So it's been quite wet throughout most of that time period. And again, Mato Grosso here, Mato Grosso do Sul, getting down into Paraná and Rio Grande do Sul, these are the major growing regions of Brazil. But from December 3rd to December 9th, we did see this region dry out substantially. And the question becomes, if we continue to stay in that drier pattern, are we going to start to cause problems with yields in some of Brazil's southern growing regions? Remember, though, we're going into this wet, so we'll have to see how long the drier pattern sticks around. The MJO is forecast, and again, it's been closely tied to the Brazilian monsoon. It is forecast to return to those phases that are cold for North America and wet for central Brazil by the time we start the month of January. So we're going to have to watch that very carefully. But in the interim, I'm going to pay close attention to see how much rainfall we get in Brazil's southern growing regions to see if it does have an impact on their overall yields when we get into that harvest time period after the new year begins. So a lot to kind of take in there, but with that, I'm going to go and wrap up this forecast video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions thank you for your attention. Hope you look forward to our next update coming out soon. Thank you.